But everybody's got to set their own policy. Has anybody seen the?
We'll see some.
Phil, it took you to be very late.
I left the meeting in progress, what can I say? You know how that feels.
I had a total of 3 meetings scheduled yesterday, and about 8. I thought, I won't be
And I got a high check.
Yes, we are high.
Hey,
And I'm high on coffee.
Coffee. This is a serious meeting. This is not playtime.
Y'all ready to go?
Yes, sir.
We have quorum. We have quorum. Call the meeting to order. It is 9:30. We will start with the pledge to the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Item number 3 is public comment. Do I have public comment from our public? No public comment. Number 4, consideration and approval of the minutes of the December 3 and the December 18, 2015 policy board member. Have y'all looked them over, and is anyone comfortable with moving approval?
I did not see any errors, so I'll move for approval.
Well, anybody want to second?
I'll second it.
Daniel, do we have a motion to approve? I do have a second. Any comment?
I have just.
Yes, sir.
And I apologize because I haven't read this word for word, and it's very minor, but Wendy, on item 6,
Which one?
on the
The third or-
December 3rd
Okay.
minutes, should be RM 584, it's very minor. Basic deal play on RM 584.
Instead of 6?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll include that correction in my
okay.
motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do I have any other comments from the board? We do have the move to approve, I do have a second with the amendment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Number 5 is discussion and election of NPO Policy Board officers for 2016. Do you have a list of them here, Wendy?
I did not put a list. I was not sure what exactly y'all wanted me to do with that. Joe Ray didn't give me much, direction on that.
Okay, are we going to take Tom to replace Tracy? Would that be,
Well,
or is that what y'all want to do? You want to wait?
Tom
for the
is
rest?
Tracy's proxy, and I've asked him to participate with the board's indulgence as proxy for the DE position until our position is filled. So in that sense, yes. But the DE will remain a permanent position. When we get a new DE in place,
We should be no more than 2 months.
I would expect that.
All right, so we're voting on the board members that we currently have.
We need to vote on a chair and a vice chair.
Okay. What do we need to do then? We need to accept all the members as they now
Yes.
are.
Accept all the
and then-
members as they are, and then someone needs to make a motion if they want someone to be chair or vice chair.
And I will say the 2 TxDOT seats should be excluded from those.
Well, can the motion just say that Joe will be the interim until the district attorney? the new
Sure,
district
but I'm thinking
engineer-
about the next step here and what we're trying to achieve about electing officers.
Yes.
The 2 TxDOT
And that is written
seats
into the
should be.
bylaws.
Okay, I didn't know if that was there or not.
Somebody put that in words.
Well, it's already in the bylaws, apparently.
Yes, the
So I
bylaws
think
say
we're
that
covered.
TxDOT are exempt from
Yeah.
holding chair or vice chair. So we need someone we need 2 people to volunteer to be chair and vice chair. And then we'll go on that for approval.
It is, are you the vice chair currently? Okay. Are you both willing to continue in your roles?
I've got 17 months left.
Okay. I would move that we continue with the mayor as the chair and the county judge as the vice chair, and accept the current directors as currently seated and comprised.
I would second that. Good way to put it. Very well said, sir. Any further comment from the board? Public comment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. You got it?
Who was the second?
I was.
Okay.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
The agenda for today, how is it on the website? Is it
It should be under the agenda,
under?
under meeting,
Under meeting?
yes.
Okay.
I have an extra copy if
You
you
know what,
want.
well, I'll find it on here. Is it under next meeting or?
No. It's right under board.
Under board, okay, sorry.
No, no, no.
I didn't know.
There's 1, 2, 4, and then
Great,
if you
thank you.
scroll up, it'll give you the,
Great, that's what I needed,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Mhm.
All right, item number 6 is discussion and consideration of approval for the 15-18 TIP Amendment 4 draft and any action in connection thereto. Wendy?
Okay, so TxDOT had 2 projects that they wanted to add. It was CSJ 0077, 06095, and that was for the ACP overlay on US 87 to Sherwood Way. That was the first one. And
60. I'm sorry.
it's the last, it should be the last 2 on that packet, because I had some other adjustments that we had to make.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. And then the second one was CSJ 0077, 08042, and that's also ACP overlay from Sherwood to 0.4 miles south on Sherwood Way. The other amendment that I wanted to make, Kristen? do you-
I'm sorry, I just noticed on the 08042, just a minor, we need to put the highway on it, that's all.
The US Highway 87?
I think it's US 67, but yes.
Okay, oh, okay.
I'm sorry, that's what I was trying to catch up on. Yeah, because we have a number of,
CSJs are glued together for contractual purposes, and so it's kind of hard to keep up with when they're called.
We'll make that, so this amendment will include that, that as well. The other thing I noticed when Doreen and I were reviewing this, the MPO project numbers, they weren't sequential. So I suggested that we go ahead and do it while we have them in there, and he thought that was a good idea. So what I'd like to do is y'all approve the draft with the correction of adding the highway, so that I can take it out for public comment for the next 10 days, and then in February, we'll bring it back for approval.
everything else.
Yes.
John?
Well, I move to approve, just as presented here with that one clerical adjustment to it. What we're doing, these are projects we've had scheduled, have placed in our letting schedule, and just haven't included into the TIP at this point. But there's another dynamic going on here too. In fact, we're having a meeting about this particular project this morning, about the technical aspects of it. Trying to get the scope of work right and make sure the repairs we do are gonna be lasting. As you know, the pavement condition out there is pretty rough. And we're kind of amending our thought process on that, and honestly, probably adding some money to it. We're bringing some of our Prop 1 money available to us in fiscal, is it fiscal 16? It is fiscal 16, Prop 1 money outside the NPO share to bear on this as well. And then we're also scheduling a smaller companion project in fiscal 17, probably, is what we discussed this morning, to address the worst section of the frontage road there in front of Frontier Row and approaching the ramp to the Dawn ramp onto the Loop 306. So that's still all up in there, but the net result is we need more funding to make this happen, so that's incorporated in here too. So after having said all that, I move to approve.
I'll second. And is the highway change, is that on page
34.
34 of 40?
I probably left it off when I finished the reading, but.
So we'll run that up.
Got it. Okay.
All right, we do have a motion to approve as presented with one clerical change. It's been seconded. Is everyone comfortable with it on the board? Is there further discussion needed? Public comment? Then I will call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 7 is discussion and review of the city's indirect cost and any action in connection thereto. Daniel? That's you, Daniel?
Yes, sir. Okay, So Doré had mentioned before he left, he'd given me the numbers for the 2014. And if you look at it, you can see that our projected indirect costs is over $23,000. And that's considered 34%. Doré feels that that's high, and this is something that can be negotiated. I completely agree with him. In the negotiation process with the city, I don't know how that goes. I've never seen anybody negotiate. Doré had met some folks at one of the meetings he attended that had negotiated a rate down to like 4%, which I thought was I thought that was real low. I didn't think that that was actually possible. So I just kind of wanted y'all's input on where you think we need to go forward with the indirect costs, what we need to do, and if we have your support to negotiate with the city for something lower.
Is it based on the percentage or the actual number?
It's based on the 23,000 is the actual number. The percentage is the city's percentage overall for all departments.
Why wouldn't we stay with the actual number?
So it seems, I had a conversation with Doré, and I think that's one of the things that he had learned going and visiting with other NPOs, is that was one way you could do it, instead of basing it on our percentage, make it a fixed number on an annual basis. Especially considering there's usually, only 1 to 3 employees, and indirect rates are based off the personnel costs. I could see basing it on a percentage being problematic, because if in 1 year you have 3, and you've got a couple $100,000 of personnel costs, then 20% of that is gonna be a lot more than when you've got 1.
Makes sense.
The following page is also a breakdown of what is included in the indirect costs. Page, yeah. So it kind of breaks it down. I mean, there's not really a lot that you can maneuver around, and this is based off of last year. The only question that I raised was that 8,622. I wanted more detail on what exactly it was. Was it just IT? Was it the city posting through the information department, like posting on Facebook and things like that? Because that is a service we don't need. And the few times that we have requested it, it's been really difficult to get Anthony to agree to put anything on without your approval, Daniel.
Okay.
But I had no response back. I had asked for several different things I wanted to bring to y'all today, but I had no response back from the city to give me, the nitty-gritty on what it entails.
Let's schedule a sit down and look at all the.
I was gonna say, it's been a long time since we've had this conversation. Things may have changed to the point without us realizing it.
I
It's time to
agree,
revisit it.
I agree with that. We definitely want to do what's fair as well, and I know that you're working on a limited budget as well, so we want to make sure that we're tying in those indirect costs the way it should be. So let's schedule a meeting, and we'll go through each one of the line items to find.
That would be fantastic.
Very good.
I think it would give us a clearer picture, because then when we come back and we present it to y'all would know that, that we're getting the best rate possible. And then another thing that Doré had mentioned, was about, other organizations possibly, looking at the MPO, to be their fiscal agent. I don't know how far he's gotten with that, but that was something he told me that I needed to bring up at the meeting. So I don't know, it's whatever the board decides that they feel is best, and whatever information you need me to attain, I can.
I think that's definitely something that needs to be discussed and decided before we even start work on that MOU to determine how we're awarding. Because right now I have our legal taking a look at the awarding from a liability perspective on the city side. So we're doing that already, but if that's gonna change, then we can put a stop to that and make sure that whichever entity then takes that responsibility, then decide whether they want to change wording.
Well, how do you all feel about that? Do you think that the MPO is striving under the city's fiscal watch, or do you have other suggestions?
Well, it seems like at the last meeting, there was consensus around the issue of making sure that the city is protected
Correct.
in liability, but then making sure we were getting good value for the services provided and so forth. And I don't remember our brainstorming any other entities that really wanted, that responsibility, that fiscal agent. So I don't know, unless there's new information that I'm unaware of, you know, who else we would approach to talk about that. I think overall, if we work through a few more things, it can fit very well.
You can.
And so do you think we're within a month of getting the other information that you've asked for?
Well, I know that we're getting to that other item line I'm giving it.
Oh.
So I was thinking it kind of dovetails.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a little bit, so we'll
Okay.
discuss that though, but.
But it does bring up a point, I mean, there are only really 3 entities represented on this board that would be viable hosts for the MPO and fiscal agents.
Well, I wasn't sure if anybody had, after the last meeting, if any wheels started turning.
Well, I was gonna say, I don't know that
Right.
we've ever had a discussion, and I honestly feel like if we fine tune things,
Mhm.
as the city's fiscal agent, I feel like things will continue on in good shape. However, honestly, we may not wanna overlook other opportunities and just kind of look at pros and cons and take our time and think through it to not try to put the monkey on either counties or the cog's back, but, you know, I don't know if there's even any interest, and so that would shorten that conversation if there's not,
But change it only if there's a benefit, I mean, if
Right,
there's no reason.
and, right, I think we need to, I don't think we do it without having that discussion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I know that, we'll get to that item in just a little bit, but that could be something that we can discuss in our executive committee as well. And kind of maybe determine if this should be the entity, how that would look as well.
I think it all kind of ties together, because if we're negotiating our indirect rate with the city, then we need to know what the comparables would be. So that's kind of a logical place for that to be discussed, and we probably owe it to the NPO to make sure we know what all the options are, but I can speak for my organization. I would share some of the concerns that the city's had, knowing where the line is, and this is an autonomous organization. And, you know, what exactly are we getting, or what exactly will we be responsible for as the fiscal agent? And we'll just say up front that we're happy with it being the city.
I'm sure you are.
We've shortened
The way it's written right now.
And what are your thoughts?
Do you want it?
Relative?
Of course, our structure is a little bit unique from the other ones. The fact that our auditor and things actually works for the district judges, but right, what has occurred the last 2 years, I think we're out of capacity to add any other administrative cost. It would be, I don't think my court would be real excited about taking it on. Again,
makes us
if
feel
there's a
loved.
benefit, you know, if it brought in $150,000 a year administrative cost, they might look at it, but seriously, I just, right now, I don't think we have the capacity to actually take it on and deal with it. And I'm not sure if we're best positioned for that as a county. We have such a defined mission in what we do, so.
And again, we don't have an issue with it, again, all we wanna do is protect ourselves. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit, but, that's really our main concern. And we definitely can sit down and look at the indirect costs and determine, what's fair. And, we wanna make sure that you have the funds available, in order to accomplish your mission as well. So, again, the city doesn't have an issue, but we just wanna make sure that we make some.
Good, I wanted to make sure we had gotten it out there in case the last meeting did spark, wheels turning of an organization thinking, well, maybe we could do, maybe we could come in and help the MPO, or maybe they could benefit us. So, I promised you, Ray, that I would put it in there, so, I think I'm all done now with all my promises.
No, I'm glad we did, and I'm glad we had the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard
I'm
one.
very interested in kind of digging into the indirect cost issue, just so everybody understands what it is, and what
And I'm not
opportunities
even
we may be
completely clear,
missing.
so, yeah. I'm not completely clear, so I wanna make sure that's clear on that.
Well, what I'd like to do is when we sit down and do that, I'd like to have Joe Clark come as well.
Yeah.
Just because, there
I was
might
gonna bring him
be,
anyway.
there might be some other things that, have
Yeah.
popped up along the way that we'd like to have addressed.
And Joe and
clarification.
TP&P, our Transportation Planning Programming Division, have, a broader view and can kind of help us make comparisons and analogies to other NPOs where they're relevant.
Also, this very issue is becoming apparent with FHWA, with other NPOs in their question. You know, the indirect costs are continually to increase in other NPOs and the federal highways, which who pays the bills, are asking why. And that's a good question.
So it's a good time for us
It's
to
a
have
very good time.
brought it up on our own.
There's always a component of, as far as the cost of business going up, but they shouldn't go up that significantly where you start seeing an indirect cost that's
Yeah.
that's really, I mean,
To give you an example, and I'm not telling on other areas, but while these questions are being asked, there's an area that their indirect cost tripled since 2011.
wow.
So,
Red flag.
Yeah.
That would get your attention.
All right, then there will be a meeting scheduled
Yes.
with the city of Wendy to talk
Yes, sir.
about this with all of the different actors involved.
Except for Mr. Clark, I'm not really.
Then I suppose we have dealt with item number 7, if
Yes.
there's anything else that needs to be said before we move on. Okay. Item number 8, discussion from the executive committee regarding the NPO's MOU update and any updates regarding the job description of NPO director's position and any action in connection thereto. Just starting this one.
Yeah, don't mind, let me start this one off.
Okay.
First of all, I mentioned as far as the changes to the MOU, I have talked with Teresa, who's our city attorney, to kind of start with the review process to make sure that we take a look at, and we're comfortable with wording that protects the city. And we did talk about the responsibilities of the city and even where that would fall under the organizational chart. So that's something that as a committee we'll get together, we'll definitely discuss that. But we also want to reinforce the fact that the city only is concerned is that liability to make sure we take care of that. We definitely do not want to take control of the NPO. That is a function of the board. Any direction is given and any performance evaluations or actions taken is the board's responsibility. The only thing we want to do, again, make sure that we correct that portion. So, right now, Teresa's taking a look at it. She's reviewing it. By the time we meet again, well, we didn't meet actually, but by the time we meet, I'll have I'll present the wording and get your input on that, see if you have any concerns with that before we come and present this to the board. We did also advertise. I found out though that we did receive 10 applicants for the position. The applicant pool that we received, quite frankly, I was hoping to see more than what we received. I did talk with HR. We had an issue. We did advertise for the position. We have actually advertised locally and in some national site as well. Again, we drew 10 applications. I came to find out because I had requested, we also advertised with the American Planning Association, the Texas chapter of the NPO, and basically there's 3 other sites that should have been, Temple, there should have been some other sites that should have gone in. Came to find out that I guess through the holidays, we never received the budget codes to go out and advertise for those 3 different sites, so 2 of them that do charge. So I've given the okay at this point to move forward, get it done right away. So we do want to see a larger applicant pool that we can make sure that we have good qualified candidates that we can select for interviews. So that's what we are at this point. I'm hoping that within the next couple of weeks, no more than a month, we should have a good pool to take a look at. And in the meantime, have Teresa come up with that wording. So when we do sit down as an executive committee, we have an opportunity to look at those 2 different areas. And that's what we are on.
Well, and then for the applicants that are there or that might come in, we'll be further along in our process of knowing how our structure is going to remain the same or change, and priorities of the board, and it'll make it easier for the people to know if they still have interest or there's a match, if they believe there's a match with what we need. So it sounds like good timing coming together.
Yeah, I'm thinking that by our next meeting, John Austin will come and tell me that the college is willing to take on these.
I should also say though, because I probably spoke out of turn, it would be something I'd have to talk to my board about.
Oh, you can put another.
So, yeah, so I'll kick that back to Judge.
Room walking, that's what they call it.
Anyway, that's a report, and that's what we're doing.
Everybody comfortable with it? Let's move on to item number 9. Representative reports. City of San Angelo.
Mayor, the only thing, I mean, I know that Shane's been kind of reporting, the only thing I really want to bring up is the next city council meeting, we will be looking at issuing certificates of obligation to start our construction of major thoroughfares in our community as far as collector roads and arterials and so forth. So we are looking at about $16 million for the first couple of years, that we'll be doing some major work. We, again, had started putting together a street plan, and I think we have a pretty good idea of what the studies that we've done, which streets will be done on a year-by-year basis, which will be a report that will be given to the city council. I'd rather give that report to the council first before I start reporting streets and so forth here. But that is an item that is coming up to the city council.
Next up.
Tom, I guess we're essentially wrapped up finally at the 67, 277 interchange. There's still a couple of punch list items. Okay.
Which is a good deal.
I know it's been a long time coming and a frustrating process for everybody, including us. It has been. We have one project on Houston Hart under contract, not underway. Work should start this
Within a month,
spring.
the concrete part of it. And it's
Yeah.
paving this summer.
And that's from basically
From
Haverhill
here
up
east?
to, yeah,
Here, east, basically.
to Smith or to the interchange up there, but, the eastern portion of
Very
Houston Hart, we haven't.
It's time.
It's time. And then we already spoke about the next part of Houston Hart, which we're gonna contract the bulk of it, the main lane portion of it, certainly in August, about a $8 million contract.
And that's in front of Olive Garden there.
Right, which practically you won't see work on that until next year, given the timing of the contract. But, what else am I missing, Tom? Right here in town, that's about it.
Majority of it right there.
Yeah.
Good deal. John Austin?
Well, this is in another meeting, but he presented some really promising numbers yesterday. When he first got here, he's implementing his own culture as any new manager would, and we're getting through that transition. The numbers that he presented, he was able to show that since he's been here from October, looking at the aggregate of October, November, and December compared to last year, that he has decreased the amount of overtime hours used by 43%, which when you're talking about a couple hundred hours of pay period, it amounts to serious, $5,000 to $6,000 of pay period, which is great. And so what we wanted to look at to compare that to, or to see if it was tied to, is did that affect our ridership? The cool thing is the ridership's actually gone up when it's decreased the overtime. So the ridership in general has gone up 13%, and in the rural areas it's gone up 30%. So he's doing a great job.
Wow.
And it was a great report on what professional full-time management will do. It's just they didn't have the capacity to do. Plus the route study and the bus stop deal are still very much underway trying to use that. So I'm very happy with that.
It's promising. The routes is the one that continues to be moved, of course.
Sure.
We get calls on that city as well.
Sure.
About that.
And so I have more faith in the management company and the expertise that they bring, that we're gonna do that correctly, because of course changing the route requires public notice and public meetings and public input, and it's hard to just go out and change them. And then it's based on a whole myriad of factors, demographics and who the ridership's gonna be and all that. So I think, now when we say we're working on it, we know what we're doing and we're working on it. Same goes for the bus stops.
Quick question,
Yes,
Mayor. Do I understand that very soon that the Goodfellow Express trolley will be going on base? Is that?
Those discussions so it's kind of gone back and forth. At one point, they decided they were the way to get it on base was to drop off any civilians at the gate. And I don't know if they ever really sorted that out. We didn't have an issue with that because 100% of the ridership on that Goodfellow route are airmen or anybody else that's out at the base.
I've heard it was almost 100%.
I don't know that we ever have, and we know who's on the bus, so
Okay.
it wouldn't have been an issue, but I don't know if they've quite worked that out yet. There was a problem with that. There's some folks on the base side that disagreed with doing it that way. So, let me check on that. I'll report back next meeting.
Historically, they always were on base, up until
Well-
9/11.
Well, but then even more recently, it started for a while, but then other issues came in and new leadership. So when the ridership really started to decline, we traced it a lot to that. Very hot or very cold weather, just even to walk from the dorms or the middle of the base out to that gate, you know, you think twice.
Right.
Before you'll do that, but if it pulls up where the taxis pull up by the PX and it's more accessible, we're thinking, and the base then can really promote it to the students and others who could utilize it.
Was it, I understand the history of it. Whenever the Goodfellow route was conceived, in order to be fair to the taxis, they decided not, and for security reasons, they decided not to take the buses on the base.
Yes,
And
that's.
so we've
probably-
always done it that way.
Right.
And I know Colonel Downs, it was his idea, in fact, that we
Yes.
take the riders off the bus. And, let me, before I
Okay.
say anything else that may not be accurate, I'll double check on that, we'll report back.
We'd really like to get that if we can. And I know we'll hear from the taxis again, but it's a fairness issue also to what we're trying to do to provide value to the base and the students without vehicles and to give them an alternative.
Sure.
So, okay.
And that continues to be a big component, that seems like, satisfaction out there by the students and by the military personnel.
Phil, Chamber of Commerce?
Well, I understand there's a meeting next week to talk about Interstate 14, and you all are going.
Well, I was until I realized that your centennial was on the same day.
Right.
Yeah, you can't.
No, I can't get away, and the last I heard from Roland is that they'll get back as soon as they can. I don't know how long the meeting lasts. Are you going to that?
Yes.
It's like a
and I-
2 hour.
And I don't know where that came out a couple of weeks ago, the invitation, and I was unaware of it.
As well to roll
Well, and
out.
I didn't know what that is.
Yeah, I didn't know anything until yesterday, Roland called me.
And I think they expanded the invitation to include some more of the TxDOT districts and things, but I contacted Roland, I think he spoke with you, and I've already committed to it because I was told it was important and didn't realize it was on the centennial date. So we're gonna try to get back in time to get to the banquet.
I think it's slated to wrap up at either 1 or 1:30.
Well, that's what it says.
That's what it said.
So, I was
Yeah.
hoping that would be the case.
Yeah.
Drink a protein
Roughly
shake,
4.5
don't stop
hours.
to eat, and drive back.
Yeah.
Drink a protein shake, drive straight back.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about calling my helicopter to take it back quicker, but.
Okay. Well, I'm actually looking at going as well, but again, I realized too, there was that day, and so I told Roland, right now, put me down, but yeah, I hate to miss that function also, but.
Right.
But we do have, I believe, 3 people representing the city that will be going.
Okay. And obviously, we have interest, you know, and the chamber, of course, officially endorsed the extension of I-27. We want to learn more, and this sounds really good, whether it's an alternate, both from Sonora going west and then up through here and going north to Midland, Odessa. I mean, we think it sounds really good, but we just can't be a part of that meeting next week. So whoever goes, we're looking forward to that information and being as supportive as we can, but of course, we can't stop at this point.
What are your priorities, Phil? I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, we have a
This is
lot
just
of
an annual function.
time and effort, yeah, and this one being the centennial one, there's some extra
Absolutely.
things, so,
We've got 3 from the city going. I'll make your centennial.
okay, great. That
You
sounds
really
good.
want to make that, right?
Yeah, I want to make the
Okay,
centennial.
Y'all going down?
I think I am now, yeah. And I'm glad to know about it, because I've got civic clubs calling, wanting presentation on it.
okay.
And honestly, I think it surprised TxDOT is envy to some degree that's in there. I talked to Roger Bell with TPMP, kind of in the corridor group there last week in Austin, and he sent me some a very early draft of some talking points and kind of a white paper on what it is and what to expect out of it. So this will complement that nicely. I'm kind of looking forward to it in that regard.
And so, I'm sorry.
I'm sure they won't make any concrete decisions.
Well, and.
Oh, no,
And what we're talking about is a designation.
Yeah.
That then works toward funding, correct, on the federal side?
It's analogous to the Forest Plains designation a dozen years ago, and the only material contribution from the federal highway program monetarily, that's a result of that has been planning funds, not construction. Now, every label you can layer on top of highway segments, like that Forest Plains, I-14 now, I-69, increases its local priority and our emphasis and willingness to spend more discretionary money on it. So I think that's the magic, but it's a very long-term project, especially west of I-35. I think they're really looking at that East Texas segment, because that's where the traffic is. That's where you would expect the earliest development to be, I think. But we'll know more next week after
The only other item I have is that there continues to be planning for the Portage to Plains Annual Conference. And I guess there's a meeting coming up.
Maybe on 28th?
Yes, end of the month. So if you all have issues that you think would be good to bring more San Angelo people out, and good for the region, regional issues, that's what we want to try to get as far as program issues. And then, of course, we're also going to be working on events and sponsorships, all of that. So that work is continuing as well.
Very well. Judge?
We pretty much covered most of what I was gonna speak of. Other than that, we're not doing program, we are doing building construction.
You've been on the jail.
And courthouse renovations on the second floor of the Keys building. And my next two successors hopefully will have nothing to do.
You got them all lined up.
All righty, that ought to take care of number 9. Number 10 is discussion review of organizational reports, director's monthly staff, finance report, attendance report. That would be you, ma'am?
Yes, okay. As you can see, the activity report has decreased, seeing that it's a one-man show. I'm trying to do as much as I can. But it's been really good. I love a challenge. John Austin knows I love a challenge, so I've been pleased. I've had a lot to do. The financial report, if you look at that, my people just left me. So we've gotten the budget all the way, I should say we've gotten everything billed to TxDOT up until November. So based on November, we're sitting at 20% of what we've expended so far. The December billing and the January billing, December's gonna go out next week, and then January, once they close, I'm kind of trying to figure out their timetable of when they actually close for the accounting and finance. It's a little bit different than what I'm accustomed to. I'm accustomed to them saying, this is the cutoff, we don't care what comes in after, it's going to the next month. And that's not how the city operates. So the billing will probably always be a month behind just because of that. Some of the things that I've looked at for when we have a permanent director, some of the things, just looking at the budget, there's a couple things that we could probably cut that would do the budget a little bit more, like the cell phone that only had a little tiny bit of use. That would save us about $900 a month. I'm sorry, $900 a year. One phone call on that cell phone is roughly running about $70. So, and that's just for like 3 minutes of a phone call. So I think that's one place that we can look at maybe cutting some money. And I've just been trying to keep an eye on what we have going on with the numbers and see where we can, save. I'm a big person when it comes down to saving, and I think sometimes you spend more than what we really need to. Even though it's an allowable charge, I don't always agree that it's something that we have to have. Why have a cell phone when we have a tablet that we can access our emails on if we go to conference? So that's one of the things that I've been looking at upon looking at all the other wonderful things that we have going on. But I just kind of wanted to bring that to your attention so that you know that that part of the director position is really, that's like my first priority, is keeping the budget under control. And then the attendance record, I mean, everybody's been here, nothing goes against what the bylaws say, so I think we're running fine on that as well.
What constitutes an unexcused absence versus an excused?
That would
absence?
be if, like, we didn't have notification that the person wasn't gonna
Just
attend, and that their
notification.
proxy never knew that they were not gonna attend.
Okay.
And the bylaws do state that they're only allowed to have 3 unexcused. and then it would be brought back to the board, and the board would decide what type of correction would be taken. But that's pretty much everything that I have for y'all, unless there's something else that you have a question on. I didn't go to conference, to the AMPO meeting earlier last week, because when they did our budget for the pay increases, I guess it wasn't taken into account that there was gonna be a pay increase. So some of our accounts had zeroed out. I've done the budget amendment to put the funds back by using the cost savings of salaries right now. And I'm just waiting for them to approve that. But there are some of our lines that are showing negative because of the pay increases. Hopefully that'll be taken care of by the next meeting, and I can tell you that, everything, there's money everywhere.
Everyone comfortable? Questions? Let's move on then to number 11, which is opportunity for members of the policy board or MPO staff to recommend topics for future discussion or action. What do you have on that, Wendy?
Just whatever y'all wanted to talk about next time, so I can have like a clearer understanding. I know that you all have been doing different things with like the committee for hiring, the committee for the MOU, and I wanted to make sure that I had your input on what was going on to the agenda. If we needed to have an executive session during the next meeting, I'll make sure that I list that as well, or I could just list it if it's needed. So.
I'd love to have a report on the I-14, whatever the group learns, so that we're, whether or not it's something that we should start getting some support for, resolutions of support, or just what your thoughts are about where it goes from here.
Anyone else?
I will say not for February, but probably, I'm thinking in April, possibly in March, we will need to do the formal TIP, public involvement, which I've done historically, at least for the past 5 cycles or so, past 10 years or so, for the urban part of it at the MPO. And we'll talk about that some more as we get closer to it. And then also the rural part of it, just cost town to COG, because I have a captive audience there, county judges. So that'd be coming up this spring, not next month.
I gave you all also projection of the meetings. Is that time okay, or do we need to adjust the time? That was the time that we had before DeRay was attending the leadership class. Figured this way if y'all had a look of the entire year. I know y'all are busy, so.
I think as long as we know when it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Hopefully
Plan for it.
adjust
And then
it.
the TAC, we're meeting in 2 weeks, and I'm gonna get with them to find out what is the best time. DeRay recommended not have meeting after lunch. He recommended meeting in the morning, but I think that might conflict with some people's schedules, so I'm gonna give them that option too.
How often does that TAC meet?
Once a month, and it's usually 2 weeks following this meeting. Any other future?
Mr. Bun?
Good, I like the 8:30 schedule.
I do too.
Okay. Yeah.
John Austin, do you have anything?
No, sir, but we will bring back, and we can do it as part of our entity report, some more information about the people stuff that we can put on the agenda.
Tom, do you have anything? And I do have 2 items that I'd like to bring up.
I know one of them.
You know one of them. I want to do something on these, was it Home Depot that was in here almost a year ago and said, we're ready to build bus stops and pay for them and maintain. I want to finally get an answer.
So I think there's some confusion about, because what they were wanting to do was build, as I understand it, was build a bus stop on their property, just one bus stop. Not that they were gonna get out and build bus stops all over town. And then because of, whatever, there were some internal issues and they backed out, basically.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I mean, that was what we probably should suspect, but, so there is really something.
I think that's.
Internal
I'll take ownership for dropping the ball every time we do it, but I think on that one, it was a Home Depot issue. But what they were wanting to do was build a bus stop on Home Depot.
Their spot.
Yes, sir.
I didn't understand it like that.
Well, I'm not sure I did at the time
I didn't
either, because we were
understand.
talking about a donation agreement for the use of the right of way there, which we might have been able to accommodate also, depending on the footprint of it. And we're still open to conversations like that there anywhere else, I would think, just as part of the bigger
Right.
effort.
Right.
Why don't we put this on the agenda for discussion and set some guidelines at least we can go out and advertise for anyone that would like to do this,
Right.
because I think this is something that's necessary. So if we could put it on the agenda for discussion, and let's see if we can come up with some ideas so that we can advertise. And one other thing, and this is something I'm gonna bring up with the city Tuesday as an agenda item, but I spoke to Mike Boyd, and he's probably spoken to you. They're building a new San Angelo National Bank building right across from the YMCA. All the egress is on I believe it's Concho, all the egress is on Concho, and that street is so narrow right in there. This would be an excellent time while he's building to widen that street. Now, whether it's something we can do in this budget cycle. So I plan on bringing that up with the city council this next week to have them get it on, see if we can get something started there, but I would also like the MPO board to know we need to widen Concho Street even for a couple of blocks there, so that we can accommodate this bank, because that's gonna be a traffic nightmare right there. This is the time to fix it. So, NPO board, I want them aware of it, and then we'll deal with it with the city as well.
Are they gonna have access from 87 also?
I guess he'll have 87, but he said the primary egress was on Concho.
Okay.
Yeah, they've talked to us before, I don't know how much their concept has changed, their site plan might have changed from their initial concept. It was our understanding at the time, right, Tom, that they would seek access to the 87. The issue there is, it's not insurmountable, but there's a storm sewer system involved that they're gonna have to participate in the cost of hosting also. Yeah.
Well, I just remembered when we paved Red Creek Road here 4 or 5 years ago, we finished it on Monday, and then on Tuesday, the city came and dug it up and put in a sewer line.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to
Yeah.
avoid here. Let's
Yes, sir.
get this road fixed while we're doing the project, so that we don't have to mess everything up once we get it done. Okay, that leads us into number 12, opportunity for public comment to the MP board. Recommended topics for future discussion or action, and that's kind of redundant, isn't it?
Yes, but I didn't know how many folks we were gonna have, and I wanted to make sure that if there was any public, they would have had, an opportunity.
For public comment.
Yes.
Is there public comment on the items we discussed? We've taken care of that. Next meeting, February 11th, 2/16, 8:30 a.m. Everybody comfortable with that?
Sir?
Then I'm gonna take a motion to adjourn.
Move that we adjourn.
Aye. This meeting is over, it looks like. Is any further discussion before we go? 10:15, 10:16, the meeting's over.
Mary just wanted you up here?
Yes, sir. Be great. You bring a copy of the
Yes,
agenda?
sir, I sure did.
That's all we need to look at, sir. However, I do have to go to City Hall and turn in my financial reports.
Two guys meet up there.
Makes no difference to me.